Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, I'm reviewing that episode, The Reality War. Now, this is going to be a slightly different review because there is so much to go through, as well as that big reveal at the end, which I will be going in more depth in actually another video. So there's quite a lot to go through. So without no further ado, let's get into it. This is the first time I actually seen Doctor in a cinema, and what an episode to see in the cinema as well. I managed to get a seat right at the front, and this picture was taken just before it started to fill up as well. It was brilliant to see as well, and I loved how you got to see the first part of the finale and the second part too. It really makes it feel like it's your money's worth. I really feel like the tickets were such good value for the whole experience as well. It was really great, and yeah, I really enjoyed sort of seeing all the fans, experiencing it with all the fans as well, and getting to meet a few as well. So that was absolutely brilliant. I definitely recommend in the future. Reviewing the episode through the characters, it was great to see Anita back because I was sure we were told she would only ever be a sort of one-off companion, so it was brilliant to see her back and to give her sort of significance as well, and give the Time Hotel significance as well, because if you think about it, she was sort of like a companion to the Doctor, so it does make sense to actually bring her back, and I'm so glad that they did, as well as I think most people are, because she was a lovely person, and I would have loved to see her travel with the Doctor, so it was great to see her one last time, especially when you weren't expecting it as well. And in terms of giving the Time Hotel significance, Joy to the World wasn't my favourite Christmas Day episode, so to sort of have it included in this episode sort of gives it more significance and will probably make me enjoy the episode much more upon reflection in the future as well. Interesting stuff happened with Anita as well. For me, it felt like Anita was quite sad when she saw the Doctor with Rogue. She knew that sort of the Doctor wouldn't be her type, so I am sort of wondering, is that just me picking up on that, or was Anita generally sad that the Doctor didn't love her? So that was sort of an interesting thing I picked up on. But what I will say is, of course, it's not the Doctor's fault, but I don't like how the Doctor sort of turned on Anita when Anita said that the baby wasn't his and wasn't real, because in a way that was true. And that old baby thing I will be getting into a bit later, but that I wasn't keen on. But something that I did enjoy was the Doctor mentioned the Caves of Satan as well, because Ncuti Gatwa did actually say that he'd love to face the Beast, so at least in his final episode he sort of got to mention that episode, because he really did enjoy that character and that episode as well. Going over the Rani, she did get some funny lines, both of them together, really. I really liked how Mrs Flood said that how she had Christmas off, because that is funny and true as well. So I just thought that was a generally good line. I'm sure, from what I remember, a lot of people in the cinema did actually laugh at that as well. So that was a cool line. And it was interesting to see the Rani and sort of Conrad have that sort of flirting going on, where the Rani was sort of flirting with Conrad and Conrad getting shy. That was certainly something I didn't expect, and interesting to see off of the Rani as well, so I did enjoy that. And also I really thought the Rani would sort of get a backseat in this episode, and while she technically did, I didn't really expect that big whole scene of her in unit as well, so I feel like we got one last moment for this Rani in particular to shine before she obviously got eaten by Omega, but we'll get into that in a minute. So it was great to see that scene with Unit. It was brilliant to see Mel and the Rani reunite after all these years as well. Absolutely brilliant to see. And yeah, it was really great. And I really didn't like how the Rani also said some dumb blonde and then was really rude to Ruby and about all her mothers and all of that. But again, that was a good thing because you're meant to hate that. So all of those scenes I did enjoy with the Rani. What I would also say as well is, she did sort of get defeated quite easily though, unfortunately, because after that scene she was just sort of unleashed Omega and then she just sort of got eaten. So Rani defeated quite easily, but I did like how Mrs Flood escaped, and I'd love to see Mrs Flood as the Rani somewhere far in the future, where we actually just get to see Mrs Flood as the Rani and not sort of this sidekick, so that would be interesting as well. But all the scenes with the Rani were absolutely brilliant, and I'm really glad we sort of got one last scene of her in unit sort of being the Rani before the other parts of the story sort of took over. We were told we'd be getting a more in-depth explanation as to why bi-generation happens and what exactly it is, and whilst I wouldn't say it was in-depth, we did sort of get something added onto it which was quite interesting as well, and it's all got to do with the sort of Time Lords being infertile. Now that's something interesting which we never actually knew, and sort of links back to obviously when the Time Lords were wiped out from the Master, so that was a really interesting concept which I did actually really enjoy, and some people actually found really sad as well, so I liked how that was added on, but we didn't really get too much of an explanation. However, it does sort of explain why bi-generation has happened so much after the 13th Doctor, because it was during her era where the sort of Gallifrey got wiped out via what happened with the Master. So it does make sense in that way. So while it wasn't a big explanation, it was good to get something added onto it at least. Interesting to see all of the unit soldiers and sort of personnel within the 10-mile radius get activated via the chip. That was something cool, and it was, I don't know if I was the only one who noticed, but when Shirley sort of fired away on her wheelchair, the sort of tyre tracks looked like Back to the Future, which really reminded me of that. But that was a really cool concept as well, and it was after these scenes where you sort of see Susan twist back properly for the first time, Susan Triad. Really great to see her, and how it was sort of meant she's just really 1 year old, so that was again really cool to have that sort of link back to that part of the 15th Doctor's era as well. Great to actually see the Doctor and Ruby reunited properly for the first time since Empire of Death, which was great to see as well. Really like how there was the mention of the Indigo device, sort of a callback to Stolen Earth and Journey's End with Martha and Unit, of course, so it was great to see that used as well. And I really like seeing the tower in battle mode as well. I really didn't know the tower had all these capabilities, so to see that was absolutely cool, the way the tower could actually turn, fire all the weapons, the way the helipad sort of can go up and down, which I think we've seen that before, but again, great to see nonetheless, and all of it was really cool. And from the Doctor's description, the bone beasts do really sound like something that the Reapers are, sort of cleansing the sort of problem. So yeah, really great to see, and to actually see that sort of battle in cinema was incredibly cool, because it did feel like some sort of like big budget movie, whilst the CGI sort of effects weren't big budget. Just to see that sort of epic battle in the cinema did certainly feel like it, so that was incredibly cool. The theme of babies did play a big part in this episode, and I wasn't a huge fan of it, although upon my second watch, I didn't feel like it took up as huge of a chunk as I felt in the first part of the episode. I feel like when I first watched it, it was like a really quick sort of defeat of Omega and the Rani, and then all of a sudden it was this huge chunk in the middle of sort of babies and Poppy, and then right at the end with the sort of regeneration was thrown in at the end. Whereas upon second rewatch, it did sort of feel more natural, and I feel like the middle wasn't so chunky of the babies. So there are certain elements of the sort of baby story that I like, and some that I don't. I really liked how they were between the Doctor and Belinda, they were passing each other the coat, and it was slowly fading away, symbolising Poppy fading away. I also really liked how Ruby was the only one to sort of realise, again, like in sort of Wishworld and in other instances as well. So I really liked all of that. I didn't like how Belinda was rude to Ruby, but of course that was Belinda not actually realising. But again, you know, Ruby was the only one to remember, but I didn't like how Belinda was quite rude to her there. But again, I'm just very particular when it comes to Ruby, because I really do enjoy her character, and I don't like people being rude to her. But yeah, the baby stuff as well, going over that, it felt like for me, it wasn't my favourite part, and again, sometimes it felt like it took up too much of the episode, where we could have sort of fleshed out a few other things in particular. Yeah, all of the baby stuff, yeah, bit hit and miss with me, to be fair. But I did sort of like how Ruby was the one to remember, because of course this did happen to her on the Church on Ruby Road, and I like how it sort of did a call back to that. And again, linking back to babies, so the way they sort of linked back to the babies throughout his series and then in this episode was actually quite cool, because it does make sense. Babies did play a big part in his era. He even mentioned that in Space Babies as well, so very interesting to see. And I really liked how the Doctor sort of saved Ruby and saved Belinda when she was 7, so all of that was incredibly cool. Of course, as this is the end of the 15th Doctor's era, it's probably also going to mean we're not going to see Ruby for a very, very long time, which is a great shame, because I really do enjoy her character. It was great to see her in this episode. She had some really cool scenes as well. I was really worried for Ruby in the cinema when she actually sort of teleported to Conrad and he had the gun. I was certain that we would actually see the end of Ruby and she'd be shot, so I was quite glad when she managed to sort of wriggle her way out of it. Again, proving she's more than capable without the Doctor. She managed to sort of talk Conrad down, and it was really clever the way she sort of thanked him, and she pointed something out that probably a lot of us didn't realise, that Conrad's world, whilst it wasn't perfect, it wasn't awful either. And what Ruby said, you know, he could have made it about girls and guns and sort of alcohol and all of that sort of thing. So when you think about it, really, Conrad isn't a nasty person, so I can also understand why she wished him to be happy, and it just comes to show what a great person Ruby is. So all of that was really cool. It's just a shame that although we did sort of technically say goodbye to Ruby in the Empire of Death as a proper companion, it's a shame the Doctor actually never gave her a proper goodbye in this episode as well. Even when he was sort of giving the baby to Cherry and Carla, he could have just said, you know, goodbye to Ruby. So it's a shame we sort of missed out on that. because that wouldn't have taken too long. But yeah, it just feels like the Doctor never gave a proper goodbye to Ruby, unfortunately. Speaking of Omega, it was great to see him return, and I actually thought we wouldn't actually see him because we had so much to cover as well, and because they used some audio from the audio adventures of Big Finish with Omega, I never actually thought we'd see a character or have someone voice Omega, so to actually see him come out was incredibly cool, and I'm really glad they did. I thought the look of Omega was, again, really, really cool. I thought it just looked amazing, and to actually hear that roar in cinema, you have to experience that, because the roar in cinema was so loud and just so scary. It was just so brilliant the way it was done, and just watching it on the computer or TV just doesn't capture it the way the cinema did it, so it was great to see that in cinema. The only flaws I would say is, unfortunately, he literally appeared for 3 minutes and that's it, and then he got easily defeated as well, really. So whilst, yeah, there was a lot to cover in this episode, Omega coming out for 3 minutes after 40 years is not the best if you think about it. And also, I will say, when his sort of, whilst the design was great, when his sort of like claw hit the floor, I thought that close-up shot did look very CGI as well. But the rest of him looked incredibly cool, and I'm really happy with this redesign of Omega. Probably, I would say, whilst I wouldn't say Sutek's redesign was awful, I would normally say that, you know, Sutek's design, you know, wasn't the best, whereas Omega's I'm actually quite happy with that. They've redesigned him once again for the 3rd time, but this was quite a cool one and probably better than his second look, really. So I'm quite happy with that. Just a shame we never got to see him as much as we should have, really. There were a few nice shots of the TARDIS in this episode. One of them was actually when it landed on floor -10. It looked really cool there in that sort of dark sort of room. I really liked how that was done. And also the dematerialisation as well was such a brilliant dematerialisation. Probably the 15th Doctor's last dematerialisation, so it's good that they done it in sort of style and the way it was done, so incredibly cool. I also thought the clocks when they were in, when they actually hit May the 24th, reminded me of New Year's. And talking of the TARDIS and New Year's as well, the interior shot of the TARDIS from Lucky Day when Belinda and the Doctor landed on New Year's Day 2007, that looked amazing as well. So I thought there were some really nice shots of the TARDIS in this episode in particular as well. And also it was around about this part of the episode where the boss was mentioned again. Really interesting to see the boss mentioned for a 3rd time. First was the Meep in the 60th anniversary, the second time was Rogue in obviously season 1, and then of course now with Anita in the Reality War. So really great to see all of that, and I of course this is going to go beyond the 15th Doctor's era, so really great to see. A lot of people said there are a lot of hanging threads left over, but I feel like a lot of them can be moved on to the next era, which they will be. Susan, the boss, all of these aren't exclusive to the 15th Doctor's era, so whilst they're being explored in them, it doesn't mean that they had to end in them, so I wouldn't say there are as many loose threads as a lot of people are saying. Now, the best surprise for me in this episode was the return of my favourite Doctor, Jodie Whittaker. I literally jumped the moment it happened in the cinema and actually scared my mum because of the way I reacted just all of a sudden. I could generally not believe it, and I can't believe, I'm so glad, but I generally can't believe that they brought her back so soon after her era. She literally just left in October 2022, and here we are in June 2025, and she has returned, and not just for a little glimpse, like for a few minutes. It was brilliant to see, especially because she was the only Doctor to actually return in this sort of episode, so it was absolute brilliancy, and I'm so glad that they done it, and they really did her justice as well. A lot of people found that this was I found that a lot of people have actually mentioned that this was their favourite scene in the entire episode, which is really great to see, and really great to see the love for sort of Jodie Whittaker, which she does deserve. It was only like 24 hours afterwards, after reading loads of comments, that I actually finally found some sort of comments that were negative, but considering how some people did sort of view the Jodie Whittaker era, it's a nice surprise to actually see so many good comments made, and really to see the love that the 13th Doctor deserves, especially Jodie Whittaker, because she does absolute brilliant. And yeah, it was really great to see it, because yeah, I just couldn't believe it. But there were some great lines. I really liked Jodie's line about the 13th Doctor's line about the TARDIS and the size, really 13 there. I also loved how the Doctor said, "Oh, I'm surprised it's not the other guy." I'm really glad Doctor is finally being self-aware with David Tennant, because I am one to say that David Tennant, as much as I love him, and he was my favourite Doctor before Jodie Whittaker, he's just been in it far too much. So it's brilliant to see another Doctor sort of do it, and it was great to see the 13th Doctor, because she definitely needs so much more time, and it's great to see her with some really great lines as well. And one of the great lines that I really enjoyed was, "Don't go in fear, go with that lovely smile." just so 13th Doctor there, and just something she would absolutely say. And I feel like it makes sense that it was her to return, because she's probably the most optimistic of all of the Doctors. So yeah, absolutely brilliant to see. And it was also unexpected and great to see the development on Thasmin as well. Didn't expect to see that in 2025. The way the Doctor said, "I love you," and then the Doctor said, "I never say things like that." That was such a brilliant scene as well, that part. I really loved that. And then it was sort of the Doctor saying, "I should say that to Yaz," and the Doctor saying, "You never do, but she knows." Great to see that development, to see Yaz actually know that the Doctor loves her, and to actually see that the Doctor did actually love Yaz, because she never actually mentioned that. So all of these things were incredibly brilliant, and I'm so glad that the 30th Doctor returned. I'm such in shock, I couldn't believe it. And yeah, absolute brilliant. I'm so glad they've done that. Definitely my favourite part of the episode. Whilst it was addressed, it's a shame we never got a proper explanation as to why Monday and Belinda looked so similar. But then on the other hand, it was really great that Belinda actually got to say a proper goodbye to the Doctor, and the Doctor said a proper goodbye to Belinda, because this was the end of her sort of season as well. It isn't just the end of the 15th Doctor, and she was a brilliant companion. The Doctor has had two incredibly smart, good-looking, sort of funny, interesting companions. So he's had a good run of companions, and I just think that they're both absolutely brilliant. But Belinda, incredibly kind, sweet person, genuine, she's just a brilliant person. So yeah, she was a really great character, and I'm really glad we sort of got to say a proper goodbye to her, and she did so well. Varada Seifu, but also Belinda as well, they're both brilliant, and yeah, we were incredibly lucky to have them, so I'm really glad that they got a proper goodbye as well. But yeah, a brilliant season with her as well. What I will also say as well, it was quite sad how the Doctor and Belinda sort of felt like they forgot something, because of course they did have a sort of connection in a way in the end, because although I'm not keen on the baby stuff, they did have that connection of them sharing a child. So it's interesting how they sort of forgot each other, or forgot them in that sense anyway. So yeah, really sad to see. But then again, I really liked how all of the scenes were sort of rewritten, how time was rewritten, and Belinda was trying to get home, not for a new shift like she mentioned in the Robot Revolution, but time was rewritten, so she was trying to get home for Poppy. So really interesting stuff to see. Shame we never got to see her dad. There's sort of speculation that a lot of things were cut and then things were changed, so although he was actually cast, we never actually got to see him, so that's a shame. But at least we got to see Belinda's family anyway, brother, her nan, and her mum, so that was really cool. But yeah, Belinda, great character. Shame it's the end of her time as well, but I'd love to see her return in the future, and it was really cute how Poppy sort of waved the Doctor goodbye. I'd like to see Poppy return with Belinda as well one day. Now, whilst it was sort of leaked and sort of there were rumours going about the 15th Doctor would be leaving, it was a genuine shock, especially when he said, "I like that face," because a lot of people in the cinema did sort of gasp, because then that's when you realise, oh, he is actually regenerating. So it was incredibly sad to see. I really like certain elements of the regeneration, like the energy sort of being channeled into the TARDIS looked incredibly cool, although the regeneration itself didn't look that great when he actually regenerated. It actually looked better a few years ago, so I wasn't keen on that part of the regeneration, although I really liked how when he was walking and the lights were shutting down in the TARDIS, that was incredibly cool. And then link back to Joy to the World and the Joy Star, all of it was absolutely brilliant, so that was incredibly great to see. It's really disappointing that in a way that the 15th Doctor Ncuti Gatwa was left already, although what I will say is I feel like this episode did sort of round up his era quite well, and he has had quite a strong era. I would have loved to see more of him, but I don't feel like him leaving now feels like we've missed out on more of his character, because I feel like we did get to know his Doctor fairly early on and sort of get to establish his Doctor quite well. So yeah, whilst it is obviously sad that he's gone, I do feel like we haven't sort of missed out in a way. So yeah, it's sort of a mixed bag there, really. Just quite a shock. It's a shame we never sort of got a big sort of speech from him, and as well, in a way, it's a shame he never sort of got the sort of hype up of a regeneration. I mean, throughout the years, it's sort of been hyped up for a long time in stories. Like for the 10th Doctor, we had sort of the 2009 special sort of hyping it up. For Jodie Whittaker, we had the 2022 specials. Peter Capaldi, it sort of happened at the end of his last series, and then of course continued throughout Christmas and being a big part of that, whereas this one, it sort of happened in the last 20 minutes of the episode, and it sort of come out of nowhere. So yeah, again, quite a big shock really, but in a way that's cool to see. But again, it's a shame because it's sort of like Ncuti sort of regeneration sort of didn't get brushed under the carpet, but didn't sort of get the respect and sort of the hype that it deserves. So yeah, a mixed bag there, but I wouldn't say that we've missed out. But again, I feel like his era rounds it up quite well in this episode. Whilst Jodie's scene returning was actually my favourite of all the scenes, my favourite surprise of this episode was actually Billie Piper regenerating from Ncuti Gatwa. So that was an incredibly great surprise, and everyone in the cinema was incredibly shocked. And when it ended, someone actually did chat, oh, the leaks were true. So yeah, really interesting to see that, really. Whilst it has been very controversial, and like I said, I'll go through it in more depth in another video, what I will say is I'm incredibly excited about this. Interesting how she hasn't been mentioned as the 16th Doctor. I don't actually think she might be the 16th Doctor, although on the other hand, I would like to see her do it. But I don't think she actually is the 16th Doctor, so I'm really looking forward to seeing where this is actually going to go. And I feel like it's quite good how it's sort of left on this cliffhanger and keeping people sort of interested and invested. Even if a lot of people are invested in the wrong way, again, it's still good in a way. And Doctor Who is also going to change all of the time and adapt, and it might not always get things right. So yeah, who knows how this will turn out. But personally, I'm really excited the direction Doctor Who's been taken in. You know, the 15th Doctor has gone unexpectedly. He's regenerated into Billie Piper, and we've got this epic spin-off coming, and it looks really great. It looks, I don't want to say like an Avatar rip-off, because it's not, but it looks like that sort of movie, sort of like high budget Disney thing. So really, it's looking great, and it's looking in a good way a step away from Doctor Who whilst being Doctor Who. So all of that is incredibly cool, and whilst I'm not keen on this design, I really do like how the Sea Devils look here. So really interesting to see, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I'm quite excited where Doctor Who's been taken at the moment and the direction it's been taken in. I'm happy for Doctor Who for now to just take a quick backseat while we get the war between the land and the sea, and then for it to come back and see what goes on with Billie Piper. But I left the cinema incredibly excited and really looking forward to where Doctor Who is heading. So for me, I'm really happy about all of this. So I have left the episodes feeling quite hyped for this new era, and it's something which is really great actually, because we're sort of leaving Doctor Who with a gap, and unlike Joy to the World or The Empire of Death, for example, I've left it quite excited, where after Joy to the World and The Empire of Death I felt quite deflated in a way, although I will always watch Doctor Who anyway. But yeah, it's great to sort of leave it excited, so I'm going to rank this episode at 8.5 out of 10. Yes, it has a fair few faults, but again, I really enjoyed it, and it gave me some great surprises. I never thought I'd see Jodie Whittaker, the 13th Doctor, and Billie Piper in an episode together, although whilst they didn't see each other, they were in the episode. So great to see my favourite Doctor and favourite companion in an actual story at the same time. So yeah, 8.5 definitely. But I'd love to know what you guys think. What did you think of the episode? What did you think of the 13th Doctor's return? What do you think of Ncuti's regeneration? Let me know in the comments below, because I'd love to hear it. And thank you so much for watching my reviews over the last 8 weeks. I've really enjoyed making them, and I'm really hoping that you enjoyed watching them as well. So thank you everyone for watching them as well. But again, let me know what you thought in the comments below, because I'd love to hear it. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and hope to see you in my next video soon. Thank you all for watching, and take care.